والآخر فلا شيء بعده والظاهر فلا شيء فوقه والباطن فلا شيء دونه والحمد لله على كل حال وصل اللهم على سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First and foremost, I give my condolences to all of you on the event and the occasion that we have come to commemorate. That is the Shahadat, the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, his Ahlul Bayt, and his companions. Alayhim afdhalu salatu wassalam. Until now, we should have understood a few things. One is that the role of women and the importance of women, the status of women, was part of the mission of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was part of that mission which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed in the Quran, first and foremost to change the perception that people had through the Meccan revelations, and then to implement laws and guidelines so that that perception, that concept, would actually become practice among the ummah and actually among mankind in its entirety. So this is one thing, the importance of the topic which we have selected, and that is women in Islam and their role, their status. Another thing that should become clear is that not only is the topic important, but women themselves are important, and they deserve respect and kindness, a respect and kindness that also should be reciprocated from them as well to, again, their spouses, to, again, their children, to their family members, and with other men. So that is a role that both should play. So the importance of the topic, women should be respected. They're not simply a commodity. And also the third thing which was important is that, and that woman who fulfills her duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she is not one of those women who is weak. Again, the perception that needed to be changed is that, oh, well, women are weak, or perhaps they're the more inferior of the sexes or of human beings. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He completely kind of destroys that argument, or at least He changes that perception. Likewise, we see that perception being changed in the example of Fatima Zahra salamu alayha. We see it in Zainab salamu alayha. We see it in women like Maria, as we mentioned yesterday, Maria bint Munqidh al-Abdi, who her house was the center of the, you could say, revolt, or the center of the insurrection against Yazid and Basra, that she gathered the Shia there at her home. And from there, she encouraged people, and those who gathered there encouraged people to support Imam Hussein. Also, in women like Dalham bint Amr, who was also was the wife of Zuhair ibn Qayn, that she encouraged Zuhair to respond to Imam Hussein's request for him to come. So we see that women, they play an important role in society. And this is not something that should be overlooked, but rather it should be understood so that we may understand, again, the mission of Rasulullah in its entirety. And if we understand that they deserve respect, they have a position, again, motherhood, to be a mother, to be a daughter, at least for those women who think that, well, I don't want to be known as a mother, I don't want to be known as a daughter, I want to be known for myself. To know even that status as a mother, that status as a daughter, that status as a wife, when we take the example of Rasulullah, when we take the example or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He puts forth in the Quran, we see that these are not low status. It's a very high status for women. But unfortunately, sometimes it is not perceived and it's not understood, nor are individuals interacting with women in that way that, no, these titles of a woman, that she's a mother, she's a daughter, she is, again, a wife, is not something that is a low status, but rather a high status. If we understand that, then we can come to understand and comprehend the role that women will play in society. That their creation, on one hand, the conceptual part of it, is that their creation is no different than the creation of men. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created men, that the creation of women is the same. There's no difference in that, in their being the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are several verses where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He points to this, or He alludes to this in the Quran, in Meccan verses. One of them being in Surah At-Teen, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah At-Teen, that's chapter 95, verse 4, He says that He has created insan in the best of fashion. So all what we said before, again, shows that, no, women are insan, human beings. They have value. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He stated that, again, in them, maybe if someone has a problem, but in them is what? خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. And when someone is blessed with a daughter or is given the good tidings, bushira, it is good news that you have a daughter. So they have value. They are human beings. This is, again, like I said, something that in the perception of some people, that they say, oh, well, they are not fully human. Of course, in some forms of the law, and this is in secular law, some forms, they weren't really considered human beings. Why? Because they could not inherit wealth. This is one of the things. They could not inherit wealth. In fact, what would happen is that if a woman, her husband died, her brother would get everything. Or if she was married, her parents died, she was the only person of that family, either her uncle would get everything, but if there was no one, then her husband would inherit the wealth of her family. This is part of law. If we go and we look at the history of family law, you'll see that, yes, a woman cannot inherit anything. Even it was to a point at sometimes that women, they weren't even allowed to write. You can't write. Meaning that even if they were educated, they knew how to read and they knew how to write. But if they wrote something, a book, and they wanted to publish it in their name, then it wouldn't get published. To this extent, the rights of women was overlooked. Their status was overlooked. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in the life of the Prophet, in the life of the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim afdal salatu wasalam, we see that, no, that they place women in their rightful status. In fact, in many of the histories of different laws, of secular laws, that the idea of women being able to inherit property and wealth came from Islam. They looked at, oh, well, Islam has done it, and this is, again, thousands of years ago, that women are able to inherit. So then this was incorporated in Western law, that women have a right to inherit. But the foundation of that, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He puts forth in the Quran, is that, look, with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He sees what? Men and women? There's no difference in His creation of men and women. And He has created them in the best of fashion. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Created you in the best of fashion. Yes, there's an equality in that sense that He has created you both, but yeah, at the same time, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also states that whatever He has created, قَدَّرَهُ تَقْدِيرًا. He's created everything in a measure. But yes, there's a difference in male and female, their gender. But as far as their creation goes, there's no difference. There's no difference. Also in Surah Al-Najm, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He addresses this issue as well. He says, وَأَنَّهُ خَلَقَ الزَّوْجَيْنِ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى مِن نُطْفَةٍ إِذَا تُمْنَى. He says that when you look at men and women, again, their creation is the same. The way that they are born is the same. There's no difference in that. Likewise, in Surah Al-Qiyamah, He states, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَن يُتْرَكَ سُدًى. Does mankind think or assume that they will be left alone with no tests? Left alone to, again, just to be wander and free and not have any type of, again, guidance in their life? أَلَمْ يَكُنْ نُطْفَةً مِنْ مَنِيٍّ يُمْنَى ثُمَّ كَانَ عَلَقَةً فَخَلَقَ فَسَوَّى فَجَعَلَ مِنْهُ الزَّوْجَيْنِ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى. So he says that, no, at once you were simply a germ. And this is for male and female. And then you were a clot. You were just, again, a lump of flesh. And that lump of flesh is neither male nor female. And then He has created you and He has fashioned you. And from that lump of flesh, which is, again, all equal, nothing. The creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, from that, He has fashioned you and made you male and female. So again, from the point of view of our creation, from the point of view of us being the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no difference. And that creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a role, a collective role as well, within the community. Has a collective role within the society. And this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, very clear about in the Quran. Something that we see also in the Sunnah of the Prophet and Ai-Imma alayhim afdalu salatu wassalam. Very clear about. But unfortunately, sometimes the Ummah, we haven't understood that. We haven't understood that what the Prophet of Allah wanted to do. What the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdalu salatu wassalam, they were aiming to do. One of the verses that, again, is a Medini verse from, again, Medina. Of course, those Medini verses, as we mentioned, those, again, set the parameters, set the laws and the guidelines for the interaction between male and female. One of those verses that, again, sometimes the first part of it gets misunderstood and we think, oh, well, you know what? Well, there's really a difference between men and women with regards to, again, their role in society and what they do. The first verse of Surah An-Nisa, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu ttaqullah. O you who believe, be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida. Your Lord who has created you from a single soul. Quite often, what people think, and even within some of the commentaries, they stated, well, this nafs wahida is what? He says, Adam. وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created from that single nafs its wife. as is often translated as. Rather than saying it's created from that soul, its spouse or its pair. And we discussed this meaning of Zoj the other day. So they say, oh, well, you see that the idea and the concept that, yes, Adam was created first, and then Hawa was created from the rib of Adam. But see, this is what it's talking about. That single soul, nafs, and then from that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created something else. When the Quran does not say this. Nor in the riwayat. Again, a riwayah, a narration from the Prophet Ahlul Bayt that is sound, that is firm and confirmed, can it be established that yes, this is what has happened, that Allah created Adam, and from the rib of Adam, He's created Hawa. Yeah, there's some narrations here or there, but again, as we know, that in order to accept that narration, it has to be verified. And this is something that cannot be verified. That, oh, well, this is strong and this is the way the creation has happened. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has created male and He has created female. He has created men and women. And before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is one creation better than the other? No. Not based on the criterion of gender. Not based on the criterion, oh, well, this is a man, so he's better than a woman, or hey, this is a woman, so she's better than a man. No. This is not the criterion. This is something that this is something that humanity has made up. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His criteria and His standard is different. As we mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sets a standard, and it's up to us to get to that standard. And it is the Sharia, it is the laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He puts into place to help us to reach to that point. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He points this out and He states this very clearly in Surah Hujurat, where He says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, O people. Inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. We created you from male and female. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ. Very famous verse. Everyone knows it. And we have made you into tribes and nations. لِتَعَارَفُوا, so that you may come to know one another. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. So what is the criterion for that individual who is better? Not your gender, that you're male or female, but your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who is most conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is most dear. Akramakum, the one who is most noble in the sights of Allah. And again, Surah Hujurat is what? It is a Madani verse. And the Madani verse is what? Setting those guidelines. Meaning that in your interaction, your social interactions in your institutions, whatever, that your criterion is not based on, well, we'll choose these individuals to do something within our social structure or our community structure because they're men. We're not going to choose them because they're women. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look at their character. Look at their iman. Look at their devotion. This is the criterion which is to be used. And I'll come back to this verse in a second. But for now, going back to the first verse of Surah An-Nisa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that yes, He's created you from a soul. And He has created its pair. One of the very beautiful commentaries of this, they said this part of the ayah is actually connecting or alluding to another verse in the Quran. Because as we mentioned, there's a relationship if we read the Quran. And this is also one of the things that hopefully, inshallah, we take away from these lectures is one of the methods that can be used in order to read the Quran, understand the Quran, and again, have a better connection with the Quran, have more appreciation of the Quran, have something to even reflect upon, is that if you take some of the verses that are, or chapters that's revealed in Mecca, which are, again, dealing with what? Ideologies, dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is dealing with, again, the nature of mankind. It's dealing with those things, those ideas, or those criterions where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to reach. You take those and you put beside them some of the verses and chapters from Medina, and you see how they relate to one another. Gives you a different perspective and appreciation of the Quran, that, oh, well, this is where we should be at, this is what we should understand, and these are the guidelines in order to reach to that. So one commentator, he states that this section, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, Ya ayyuha nas ittaqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida wa khalaqa minha zawja, says this indicates or is pointing to another verse in the Quran. The verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has mankind before Him. Bani Adam, in Alam al-Dhar. And He asks the souls, it's a time that is nothing but the souls, the arwah. It's just the souls there. And He asks the souls, Alastu bi rabbikum? Qalu bala. And it's interesting how He connects this. He says that. So the soul, again, He says, they were there. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that He has created you all. He has placed these souls in this world. He says, min nafsin wahida. So He says, so what is this nafsin wahida? He says, yes, it alludes to Adam. In other words, the example of mankind, not simply Adam as a male, but Adam as the idea of humanity, or you could say even Hawa, as that concept of a human being, as that concept of the physical being. So He's created you physically in this world. He says, وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا. And He has made a pair for that. He says, and what is the pair for that soul? For that human soul? For that earthly soul? He said, it is a spiritual soul. He says, and what is that spiritual soul? He says, because, again, that nafs, that earthly being is not complete without that spiritual dimension. So, and what is that? If Adam is representing the earthly dimension, he says, what is representing that spiritual dimension? He said, it's Ruhul Muhammadi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So, inshallah, if we can come forward, another salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So again, the earthly self, the nafs, is not complete without connection to that spiritual realm, that divine aspect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. So in other words, the nafs is not complete without the ruh. That example of Adam and being human is not complete without the spiritual self, without having a soul, which that soul is Nurum Muhammadi, the light of Muhammad. So this is what He says. So again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reminds us of that in this verse. وَبَثَّ وَمِنْهُمَا رِجَالًا كَثِيرًا وَنِسَاءً. In other words, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this world, this earthly form that we take is male and female. But that earthly form of male and female, again, it really has no value if it's not connected to the spiritual dimension. In other words, that earthly form of male and female, if it's not connected with the light of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, if it's not connected with that divine connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what really is the value of that gender by itself? And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, He makes that criterion, akramakum atqakum. The one who has the most value is not whether you're male or female, you are this, your gender. No, it's your consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your duty towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because that will reflect not only in your personal life, but it will also reflect in your personal life. That how you're relating to other people, whether they're male or whether they're female. Because again, you would have the criteria, you would have the akhlaq, khuluqun azim, the best of manners, the best way of interacting with others. And that's not based on, oh, well, because I'm a man, I need to interact with someone this way. Or I'm a woman because I need to interact with someone this way. Oh, well, I'm a man and I'm going to interact with this woman, so this is how I have to do it. That has, again, no place within the example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set. What has value is that I'm conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm conscious of my duty and my responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore, anyone who I interact with, again, that is my guideline. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He places in the Quran, the example that we see in Rasulullah, the example that we see in Fatima Zahra, the example we see in Amir al-Mu'mineen, and Amma alayhim afdal salatu wassalam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He creates from that soul, male and female, He places you in these earthly forms. Wattaqullah. And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He comes back and He reminds us to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first taqwa, Ya ayyuhan nas ittaqu rabbakum. Regarding, again, remember your origin. Remember that spiritual dimension. But after you've taken your earthly form, wattaqullah. Then be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regards to your duties. Because without doubt, as we know that within the laws and within the Sharia, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, there's certain things that, yes, women may have to do, men don't have to do. Certain things that men have to do and women don't have to do. But that's simply based on, again, your test in this world and in this life. But when it comes to the community, and there's things that both genders, that they have a responsibility to. There's a collective responsibility, which inshallah we will get to, and we will point out some of these things. One of them is also in this verse as well, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, remember, be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ittaqullah alladhi tasa'aluna bihi wal arham. So act and be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regards to what you ask about your duties and the rights of one another. In other words, every individual has rights. And sometimes those rights are based on gender, sometimes. The rights of your mother, which is different from the rights of your father. The rights of, again, your children. It's going to be different rights. In fact, when we look at the rights of the mother, and this is something, of course, the rights of the parents together, there's a collective rights that the parents have over their children. There's a collective rights that the child has to observe with regards to his mother and his father, which is no different. The respect. Don't say to them, oof. In other words, don't, again, disrespect them. It says, even if they are telling you something else, it says, well, even if they're misguiding you or taking you off the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you still treat them with respect, but you don't listen to them. You don't follow the guidance if it is taking you away from the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. God forbid if, again, hopefully this is not happening, their parents say, oh, no, don't pray. Oh, no, you don't need to fast in Ramadan. No, don't do that. But if you know that it's your duty, your responsibility, you be nice and you be kind, but you still fulfill your duty. That I have to fast. I have to pray. But you do it in a respectful manner. So be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regards to those rights that you are asking about with regards to one another. Wala arham, and the rights of the relatives. Inna Allah kana alaykum raqiba. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who is observing. He is the one who is watching over you. And one of those rights, and just to give you an example that why we say that, yes, there are different rights which regards you have to your parent, your father. One of the rights that is mentioned, at least for the daughters with regards to their fathers, is that, yes, they seek their father's permission in marriage. This is one of the rights that the father have. Again, provided that, again, he maintains that right. That he has to, again, have that right, because the Sharia also says that if he goes or crosses certain boundaries, then maybe he may lose that right, that wilaya, that wilaya. He may lose it. So he has to maintain it in order for that right to be there. And then with regards to the right of the mother, that right which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he mentioned, and he stated that, yes, that right is, again, to love your mother, to have respect for your mother. That right which even the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stated that it is one of the most difficult rights to actually observe. And he said to one of his companions, he says, whatever you do for your mother, he says, you'll never be able to repay her rights. And this was a man who came to Rasulullah. I mentioned this before. I'm mentioning it again. The time we have is little, and there's much more to do. Inshallah, we'll cover that tomorrow. But one of the companions came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said that his mother is elderly. And he says, so I have to feed her. I feed her. He said, if she needs to go somewhere, then I carry her on my back. I take care of her. And he asks the Prophet, he says, I know that the right of the mother is very extensive. He says, so by me doing these things, by me carrying my elderly mother who no longer can walk, by feeding her because she can no longer feed herself, he says, have I fulfilled the rights of my mother? The Prophet says, no. He's like, but I'm doing all these things, These things that she did for me also. That when she was pregnant with me, again, she carried me. So now I'm carrying her. My nourishment came from my mother when I was in her womb. And when she gave me birth, again, my nourishment came from her. So now I'm feeding her. So why is it that I have not fulfilled her rights? That I've been able to pay those rights back to, again, to be equal in that sense to my mother? He says, no. He says, you won't be. He says, because your mother, he says, when she carried you with this understanding of life, of giving you life. And that you will grow healthy and she will give birth to you. He says, you are carrying your mother, but at one point she's going to die. She's going to pass away. She's elderly. So your carrying of her is not carrying her with the expectation of her life. It's the expectation that, one day this is going to end because she will pass away. But she carried you with the expectation of your life. He says, and this is why when she carried you, she sacrificed everything. At times that even if she didn't have enough to eat, she made sure that you ate. She made sure she ate simply so that her baby can live. So that's why even that you're feeding her, and you're feeding her, again, just simply to maintain her. And do you do the same? This is because if you're carrying her around, you have to make sure that you eat too, right? So you can carry her. But the mother in that state, even after your birth, when she's feeding you, again, her whole idea is that, look, I need to eat. So that what? So that my baby can live. So he can have life. But you're carrying her, feeding her. At the end of that expectation, she will part from this world. He says, so you will never be able to fulfill that right of the mother. A right which is difficult to fulfill, but a right nonetheless to listen to the mother, because paradise is at the feet of the mother. And in Karbala, there were several women that we know that they were mothers. Several women in Karbala who were, again, even in that moment, those difficult hours, they were still nourishing their children, keeping them on the path of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. One of those mothers was Zainab Salamullah alayha. Masa'ib, as she's called. Not only the mother of her own children, Muhammad and Own and Muhammad, but one who is considered the mother of mourning. That if there's anyone who is mourning, anyone who is sad, anyone who is crying for the Ahlul Bayt, then Zainab Salamullah alayha, she plays that role of the mother. She is the one who established these Majalis al-Aza, Masa'ib. She is the one who bared the passing of her grandfather Rasulullah. She is the one who bore the passing of her mother Fatima Zahra, of her father Amir al-Mu'mineen, who even on the night of his shahada, he was in the home of Zainab Salamullah alayha, Masa'ib. She is the one who bore the difficulties of the shahadat of her brother, Imam al-Hassan. And seeing how the spears were and the arrows were coming into his body when they wanted to bury him beside their grandfather Rasulullah. Masa'ib, this is Zainab. Zainab, who wept profusely for the passing of her brother Abu al-Fadl Abbas, wept profusely for the passing of her brother Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So you see that she is Masa'ib, the mother of mourning. A mother who told to her children, agar aapke chacha ko kuch hota hai aur aap abhi zinde hain to mujhe sharmandagi hogi. So that if anything, and this is on the night of Tasua, she tells him that if anything happens to your uncle and you are still alive, says, this will bring me shame. This is a mother who is, again, cultivating her children and preparing them for Shahada, preparing them for their most highest station of being. This mother, who, subhanAllah, that for all of the shuhada, and this is one of the ajib points, for all of the shuhada on the day of Ashura, according to some of the maqtals, that she cried. She cried when Muslim ibn Osajah, he was martyred. She cried when Habib ibn Madahir, he was martyred. She cried for Akbar, for Abu al-Fadl Abbas, for Qasim. But according to some of the maqtals, they said when Own and Muhammad, when they were martyred, they said that she didn't cry at that moment. When did she cry for Own and Muhammad? They said that when she returned to Medina. That when she returned to Medina and she was greeted by her husband. He looked, he said that, where are my sons? He knew that he was sending them. He says they should be sent with a representative. But he was wanting to make sure that, yes, they had fulfilled their duty to Imam Hussein. He said at that moment that when she was asked that, where's her sons? At that moment she cried for Own and Muhammad. But on the battlefield of Karbala, she did not cry for Own and Muhammad. But on the battlefield of Karbala, she was proud of Own and Muhammad. She was proud that they went forth to protect the household of Rasulullah. She was proud that they went forth to protect their uncle Imam Hussein. In fact, it was this pride that she had that took her to that point to go to Imam Hussein, that she had told him on the night of Tasu'ah that, go forth, do not let anything happen to your uncle. Don't be alive and something has happened to him. And at one point in Karbala, she continued to see Own and Muhammad. She says, why are you still here? Haven't you gone forth on the battlefield? They said, oh, mother, we've asked several times to go to the battlefield, but our uncle, he would not allow us to go. So Zainab, salamullah alayha, she went to Imam Hussein. She says, my brother, my children, Own and Muhammad, they want to go forth to protect the household of Rasulullah. When she looked at Imam Hussein, she could see that he had tears in his eyes, that these children were like his children. He says, how can I let my children, how can I let the children of my sister go into the battlefield and sacrifice themselves? Zainab, salamullah alayha, again, she is Masa'ib. She was the mother in Karbala. She was the one who gathered all their children. She looked at Imam Hussein. She says, my brother, that after our mother was martyred, was I not like a mother to you? My brother, when our mother was martyred, did I not take care of you like our mother would have taken care of you? He said, yes. Zainab, salamullah alayha, she says, my brother, have I ever asked you for anything? He says, no. So she said, this will be the first time I ask. I ask you to give my children permission to go forth on the battlefield to defend the household of Hussein. Imam Hussein, at this point, his heart broke, and he says, then I will give you permission. This is the time that Imam Hussein gave Zainab permission for her only request. They said that Own and Muhammad, they geared up and they went out onto the battlefield. These were two very young boys. They went out onto the battlefield. They had been trained how to fight by their uncle Abbas. They said that when they went forth on the battlefield, Own, he went out, or Muhammad, he went out stating, أشكو إلى الله من العدوان. It says, I complain to Allah about this animosity towards the Ahlul Bayt. مقال قوم في الرداء عميان. That these people, they have become blind by their status. They have become blind. قد بدلوا معالم القرآن ومحكم التنزيل والتبيان. They have exchanged the Quran. Imam Hussein, he is the walking Quran. They have exchanged this. And this bayan, they have exchanged it for what? وَأَظْهَرُوا الْكُفْرَ مَعَ الطُّغْيَانِ. For oppression and disbelief. وَاتَّبَعُوا مَنْ نَهَجَ أَبِي سُفْيَانِ. They are following the same path of Abi Sufyan. Own, again the youngest, he went forth as well. إِن تَنْكُرُونِي فَأَنَا ابْنُ جَعْفَرٍ. So he went forth to saying that he is the son of Ja'far. He is the son of Ja'far al-Tayyar, the grandson of Ja'far al-Tayyar. شهيد صدق في الجنان أزهر. يطير فيها بجناح أخضر كفى بهذا شرفا في المحشر. It is enough nobility for me that I am the grandson of Ja'far al-Tayyar. They said that Own and Muhammad, they went forth on the battlefield, that these two young boys, very young, and tender, that they were fighting like men. Abbas, Abul Fadl Abbas, had taught them how to fight. And how did he teach them to fight? He told them since they were so young that they would have to stick together. So they rode together. And as they rode together, they were fighting like the men, that their might was like the might of men, cutting down the enemy, cutting down men who are 3 times their age. But at one point, Umar ibn Sa'd, he saw what was going on, that these are the sons of Haydar. These are the children of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says that you will not be able to defeat them together, separate them. And then what happened? The enemy, they came and they separated On and Muhammad. They separated them to the point that they could not no longer see each other. And then On was struck down, Muhammad was struck down. But as they were falling off of their horse, they called to their uncle, they called to Imam Hussein, Ya Amma, ya Adirikina, ya, that, oh, our uncle, come help us. Ya Amma, ya Adirikina. They said Imam Hussein, he rushed to the battlefield to help On and Muhammad. On in one place, Muhammad in the other. It was heartbreaking to Imam Hussein that when he reached to these young nephews that they had been martyred. Ala la'natullahi ala qawmi adh-dhalimin. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيُّ